scores of the highest needs kids and consider them separately to get an accurate picture of what else is really happening inside a given school. Let's use multiple measures to better monitor academic growth and instructional excellence for all children. According to a study commissioned by the DOE, the Parthenon Report, the DOE has known for years that concentrating high-needs students is a recipe for failure. Why is the DOE continuing to ignore these findings and overload the most struggling schools with students who have the greatest needs? Will the new school, coming into Legacy, offer self-contained, ICT, and ELL classes? If not, where will the freshmen that could count on Legacy go next year? To the next large, struggling high school that the DOE is preparing to close?
Tamara, you've offered a few explicit questions and thrown some data out, and I'll do my best to respond. And if I haven't, you'll correct course and make sure I've addressed your specific question. So let me first share with you how the progress reports work, if I may. And I think this is a very direct answer to your question. You talked about a level playing field, or making sure that schools are on a level playing field. So Legacy is, in order to arrive at a grade for the school, Legacy is grouped with, in a peer index, a group of 39 other schools, roughly 40 schools, that serve a similar student population, a population that's similar in terms of their poverty index, free and reduced meals, special needs, self-contained CTT, L status, etc. So these are the qualities that define the category into which the peer index of schools into which Legacy is placed, and it is the group of schools against which Legacy is evaluated. So to your question about a level playing field, we think that this levels the playing field. Legacy is evaluated against other schools that serve similar, in some cases slightly less, in some cases slightly more, students who require self-contained services, or students who are in a CTT class environment. And so, when we confront that data, again, it is our estimation then that there is a level playing field. That is, we are comparing apples to apples. And we're comparing, again, schools that serve similar populations, and then analyzing the performance of those schools, of those faculties, of those school leadership teams, in galvanizing their schools around a very difficult set of problems and challenging set of students. I agree with your comment. We all have a very high bar. We have that high bar for all of our schools. And when we see a pattern that a school cannot perform on par with its peer schools, again, schools that are serving the very same population of students, then we have a problem. And I will say that in the peer index of Legacy, again, Legacy with a 45% graduation rate, which is 20 points below the citywide average, we have schools serving a higher percentage of self-contained students that are producing graduation rates close to 75–80%. So this may not be an answer you like, and I will respect that. But that is, again, when we come to our conclusions, it's based on the analysis of a set of results against schools serving like students, with same resources, with same network supports, producing much better results. I want to just also share one data point, which is that the citywide average for self-contained, and you said 1% of. I'm not sure what that data point refers to. So perhaps we'll want to explore that offline. But I do want to share the data point that the citywide average for self-contained is 6%. And I believe you said it's roughly 7% here at Legacy, which is slightly above the citywide average. Again, if you look at schools in the peer index, the percentage of self-contained students at those schools, in some cases, is less than 7%. The 7, I think, is 7.6% here at Legacy. In many cases, is greater than the 7.6, and even with some of the higher performing schools in the peer index, they have 11.4, 9.0, 8.7% self-contained. So again, that sort of brings us back to our conclusion, which is that different schools serving a high-need population with the same funding, producing better results over time and consistently. Tamara, I hope I've answered your questions.
DOE is low performing. Why don't we shut you down?
This time I'd like to
Low
introduce.
performing DOE.
At this time, I would like to introduce Ms. Elizabeth Weiss.
Thank you very much. We have a very big document that you're probably familiar with, but we'll give it to you. It's the New York City Secondary Reform Selected Analysis, and it basically breaks apart how to make a successful school, and when there are specific populations in need, like Legacy, how to help those schools thrive. And one of the big problems that Tamara mentioned is when there's a high-need population and there's so many, it could be a recipe for disaster. So I don't know about these schools that you're comparing to Legacy, but I have a question about that. I'm not that familiar with the school, but something I learned recently is in the past few years, there's been a huge staff turnover with excellent new teachers. There are 2 brand new assistant principals, and there is a new principal. And I have a question in terms of giving the school enough time to meet the requirements that would keep the school open versus close it. Does it have to fail? Is this happening too quickly? Is it happening too hastily? And the other question I have, and I don't know if you can answer this or maybe someone else, is if this school does have the same resources and it has excellent leadership and excellent staff, why wouldn't this school thrive? It just doesn't make sense to me. So again, I hear what you're saying from a logistical level and kind of how it looks on paper. But I don't know, I'm hearing there's a lot of heart here, there's a lot of commitment here. So why can't this school thrive? So if you can answer.
All right, Liz, I'll do my best here. First of all, let me just explain that there is not, on the student makeup of a school, New York City every year runs a high school choice process. So for some 90,000 entering 9th grade students, they sit with their parents and their families and their guidance counselors over the course of the fall, and they receive an online version or a thick phone book of high school options. And they are asked to make an informed choice about where they would like to attend, and they are allowed to rank up to 12 options. And so it is through that choice process that students find their way into schools. There is not a placement centrally. We do not tell students where to go. Rather, students find their way to schools based on an informed choice process. And I will concede that some families and students are more well-informed than others. Some are coming to the city at the conclusion of their 8th grade year and are placed over the summer for placement centers. But there is no design to make sure that certain schools have a certain makeup or not. As I explained to Tamara earlier, we evaluate schools based on based on their performance relative to other schools that serve a similar population. And in this instance, what we've seen over time, and it's not just, I want to address the new leadership question, and I'll do that in a moment. It's not just their performance this year or last year, it's really a decade of performance. And we are
10 years of failure.
not able really to answer the question that you asked, the last question, which is